And we'll get started. All right, welcome everyone. Today, I'm very happy to introduce Jeremy DeMerchant, who I met on a sales call and was just so blown away by how talented he was and how comfortable I felt in that conversation. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to work with you on other stuff. So we interviewed on the podcast, and then now, I've roped him into the academy too. And I think that you'll enjoy his down-to-earth, authentic style. Jeremy, is there anything you want to say about yourself as an introduction? Straight into it.
Well, I've been doing sales from frontline call center stuff to leading teams that have done 1.35 million a month in sales. And one thing that has been consistent over my experience is I don't like to do the high pressure sell. I like to make sure that people are in the right products or services for the right reasons. And I found that takes away a lot of the resistance and anxiety that can come with selling. So that's kind of my approach. That's my style. If you've had a chance to go through the training, and of course everybody has, right? You'll see that that's kind of my approach. So with the questions and things, you'll see a lot of consistency there. And so if there's any discomfort around sales in any way, my specialization really is in mindset. So I can help you overcome all the stories you're telling yourself that have you terrified about making sales.
Great, I can use that right now. Okay, cool. So we usually kick off the meeting with going around the group and just talking about what successes people are celebrating in their life, their business, or with the course this week. So let's go ahead and do that. Sylvie, would you like to kick us off?
Definitely my success of the week is launching my ads on Facebook. Unfortunately, I realized that there was a problem today with a link. The link in my ad is not working well, so I'm kind of starting today. So I'm glad I found it, but it's like 5 days for nothing. That's why I was getting those numbers that I didn't understand.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Okay, great. But congratulations for launching it. Congratulations for finding it. And sometimes we just have to push publish and fall down and catch it so that we can do it right? So well done. Congratulations. Trey, how about you? What are you celebrating this week?
I'm celebrating the fact that I have a client, but it's not what I was looking for. So that's awesome.
That's a bit vague. Is it like not an agile client, or what is it? Are you doing some sort of sports coaching?
No, it's systems coaching.
Okay. So business systems.
Yes.
Awesome. Congratulations, Trey. Okay, Terry, how about you?
I am celebrating distraction after distraction. I am finally back. So that I'm back. So yay.
So I think, Terry, you've been in that situation where life has been happening.
Yes. Over and over again.
Yes. I go through like spells of that too. Whew. Congratulations and welcome back.
Thank you.
Right, how about you? You're on mute.
Yes, I was saying I've been on holidays for a little while. It's been super nice to connect with family after about a year. I had a really good call with an existing client, but it was my first video call and it went really well. So it was just a new experience for me. Crazy, but it was to have a good session.
Excellent. Cool. Congratulations. Jay, are you in talk mode? Can you tell us what you're celebrating this week? Successes you're celebrating.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Celebrating the balance, perhaps. Finally.
Oh, okay.
So I managed to go to the beach in the morning and sit down and have a think about things.
Excellent. I look forward to hearing even more about that soon. All right, Jeremy, what successes are you celebrating this week?
Oh, I've got lots. I helped a client achieve a record-breaking sales day to close off last week, which was great. And a record number of actual dollars collected too, which is the real number that matters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this week is moving week for me. So I'm moving to a more permanent location in a new town that I've been in for the last 4 months. And you will not notice anything different because this background's coming with me, but
I was going to say, I love your background. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a fake.
Let's see it.
Okay, let me do the zoom out here.
We get the behind the scenes.
So this is what it looks like. It's just a drop down.
Cool. That's really nice. Did you order that online?
That was a $40 purchase on Amazon, I think.
Awesome. Okay, guys, tips from the expert. I might have, because I'm like this photo, my brother-in-law took this one, but now it's like in all my pictures. I might need to shake it up a bit. Okay. And Dwayne, are you in talk mode? Can you tell us what you're celebrating this week? Sometimes he's just in listen mode. So, okay, we'll skip Dwayne for today. All right. So thank you guys. Congratulations for your successes. Look forward to hearing what you bring to the party next week as well. So we're going to go ahead and hand over to Jeremy. Just a show of hands, who's already watched the lesson? Yeah, okay, we've got some. So Jeremy, that's what you're dealing with. Who did the homework?
I didn't expect many. Okay.
Okay, Jeremy was, is ready. So let's get into it and let's see what magic you can do with us, Jeremy, who are obviously on a path of resistance for doing these calls. And I totally am, I can understand that. So I'll just hand over to you. This is kind of the Q&A part of the session. We do mentoring, and then we just sort of end with some insights and acknowledgments, and that's just the general flow. So over to you.
Awesome. Okay. So I'll start basically by giving a framework, guys, because if everybody didn't go through the training, that happens. I get it. I life happens to me too. But the gist of it is the coffee chat that I've outlined in the training is really a transitional conversation, because there's times when, of course, you guys are going to have leads where you have phone numbers and you're going to go, oh, I don't want to dial that number. You're going to have people that sign up for something and buy a $7 tripwire at some point in your funnel career, and you're going to have a phone number and you're going to have the same conversation. You're going to run into people at networking events and go, I don't know them well enough to pitch them something right now. I've only talked to them for 90 seconds. What can I do? And so this coffee chat is really a middle ground. And it's designed to get somebody on the phone. If it can be video, bonus, because a lot of us on the call know that video is amazing. But I like to do it with a phone call, just a 15-minute phone call, because it allows you to say, hey, you know what? I love what's going on, our conversation, whatever the conversation may have been. Let's continue it. Do you have 15 minutes for a quick call Tuesday at 3 or whatever time makes sense? And so no matter where you are, whether it's a networking event, which is kind of the focus of the training, or whether it's you called up somebody after they gave you information through a lead magnet and you were checking, how they were able to implement it or enjoyed it or whatever reason you've given yourself to call, you can do that follow-up chat to help frame for the next step, which would be a strategy session or discovery call, which we'll get into a whole lot more detail in next week. But it becomes that transition, that no pressure transition that allows you to create a near frictionless process that you can take somebody in from being near cold to, hey, let's kind of set this up. It's kind of like when you're playing t-ball when you're a kid. I don't know. Is that an Australian thing too? Okay, cool. When, you actually put the tee up and you put the little ball on when you're, 3 years old, 5 years old, it's the same kind of thing. It gives you the opportunity to tee up this ball so that you can knock it out of the park with your sale, but you're using the framing strategy that we're going to talk about to get even further and get it in a more effective structure. So you're not coming out pitching with your ideas and someone that doesn't know you, right? Like we know from a sales perspective, we want to get that like, know, and trust with somebody before we start selling. People love to buy, but they don't like to be sold.
Can I just want to check in with everybody. I know a lot of you, would have been at networking events already and probably, in either this business or in another business. Terry's nodding her head. I'm thinking of you specifically for some reason. Where have you used this sort of an approach in the past? Is this kind of familiar? Who's kind of like, yeah, I've kind of done this in the past. And okay, so Terry's done it. I can't see Jay or Dwayne. It looks up. So Trey and Sylvie and Emmerich and Jay and Dwayne, like, is this like brand new territory for you?
No.
Okay. So Trey, you've played with it before too. You've been in that situation where you've had to invite someone to a follow-on kind of conversation of some sort.
Personally, I haven't been in that situation too many times.
Okay, so
maybe a few times here and there, but.
Okay, so pretty new for Emmerich, pretty new for Sylvie, it sounds like. And how about Jay?
No, not new. I've done it, and then I do the follow-up as well with the script specifically for coaching.
Okay, so for those of you who have done it before, can we just I just want to get a feeling for where do you feel like you're kind of falling down, or you feel, is there any resistance? I'm kind of curious just about where you're at so that Jeremy can kind of talk to those things as he continues through his framework. So let's start with Terry.
This is the one thing that I soar at in terms of, that's what I'm known to do is I call them coffee dates. However, it's typically not a phone call. It is literally, I meet at the coffee shop and I usually do 3 to 4 a week. But now I'll be able to start transitioning to either a strategy session or a program. Usually it's just, I'm meeting them to see what they're wanting to do in life and how I can best assist in hooking them up with different resources I have. Okay, so no resistance for me whatsoever.
Great. So now I guess the transition you're going through then is changing from a general chat and a tailored solution to now feeding them into your signature program.
Correct.
Cool. Okay, that's exciting. How about you, Trey? What's the transition or any resistance that you're, what do you really want to get out of this?
So it's more closing. I do evidently lots of talking, and so I can talk to folks more than once. And it seems like there's lots of chats. And so it's kind of narrowing it down to, they actually want to have a service.
Okay, so actually getting dollars over the table, that's what you need to focus on.
Yes.
Is that a fair interpretation? Okay. All right. And
I'll throw in a couple networking tips that help segue into this conversation too.
Cool. Okay, how about you, Jay? Any resistance or areas for improvement that you see in yours?
I had resistance in the past. Specific, I think it was to do with the fact that I didn't want to charge money for my coaching. And later on, after a few unsuccessful conversations where I didn't focus on money, I realized that people actually don't value conversation if you don't charge them anything. So since then, I have a firm belief that I have to charge for my services. Otherwise, it's not going to be effective for the customer, and they're not going to see value in it. So that resistance was gone straight away, pretty much after that.
Okay.
And the rest is, I'm not reliant on coaching for survival, so to speak, financially. And because of that, I'm very relaxed when I approach these conversations. It's very easy for me to do it. I think there's no pressure.
So, and how are you with actually closing once you get someone to a conversation?
Too easy. I've got a structure in my head already. I've got the exact, I suppose, duration of the engagement, how much I'll be charging. So it just rolls out very easy. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So it sounds like you're on a similar thing with Terry. Would you in the past, would you have been offering bespoke solutions as well? And now you're going to gear them towards your signature program?
I have a fairly limited experience with coaching, I suppose. I don't have like a large scale of conversations that I had in the past, but I would always tailor because, someone says, I don't have this problem. There's no point of offering them the solution, I suppose.
Okay. Excellent. Emmerich or Sylvie, is there anything that and Dwayne, so I'll just check in with you. I just want to know if there's anything else you want to add on top of that or anything you're particularly curious about before we hand back over to Jeremy. So Sylvie, you can just go. You're good with those? Okay, Emmerich, anything you want to, you're good? And Dwayne, if you want to jump in, Dwayne, anytime, just go ahead. All right, Jeremy, back over to you.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, guys. So, and I like the point that Terry made about it being a coffee conversation. That's how this all started for me. But I found that when somebody said, hey, let's go for coffee, it actually translated into, I want to pick your brain. And it became a 2-hour conversation plus 20 minutes of driving, and my day was gone and all I did was feel exhausted. And people weren't buying because I give them so much information that they're like, I'm going to go use this now. And then maybe I'll come back later if I need more help because you gave me such great value. That's the problem. So I modified it and said, okay, 1, let's make it so it saves me time. 2, let's make it so it saves them time so it's a really smooth transition. And 3, let's give it a framework so that I can put limits on what I'm offering for free and can structure it in a way that I can make a proper formalized strategy session the next step, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I found myself having these coffee conversations for hours with people that weren't qualified. They didn't have any money. They saw some video I did on Facebook and thought that I was going to go and change the world in, an hour for that $2 coffee they bought me. Right. And I didn't close, I won't say anything, but I didn't close much from those coffee conversations. And there were many days when I drew entire business plans on napkins. And they went and implemented them, some of them, but it was, let's just say that I drank a lot of coffee and didn't make a lot of money. So I had to change the framework a bit. And so I found that if you reduce the resistance, the level of commitment, so you guys have seen with webinars, for example, how many people actually go to webinars now? Okay. How many people actually attend them live? Right. Okay, cool. So that's the same problem you have when you say, let's go for coffee, because there's a time commitment that has to fit into a schedule, right? So even those of you that do watch the replay, you can't have a replay of a coffee chat, right? So your ideal client might have that same challenge, but if you say 15 minutes on the phone, it's a much easier pill to swallow. And they don't know that you're going to try to pitch them something at some point, and maybe you're not going to. Your goal really is to find out if this is the right fit. Is this someone that I want to spend more time with? Is this somebody that I can help? And is this somebody that's qualified to be a client? And is it somebody I want to work with? So those are really the key pieces of the coffee chat. Now I'm just going to go into my slides for a second here. And if you guys have questions, like, I'm going to show this slide because it's hilarious. Hopefully nobody gets offended by it. What did you think of that slide, Benet?
I don't know which one you're talking about.
Oh, okay. Well, then it couldn't have been that offensive then.
I'm pretty open-minded.
Okay. So this is what I found when I would go, and when I started networking, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. My first networking experience, I worked at an insurance company, and I was starving. It was commission-based. It was a rough scene. But I got really good, right? And I got really good at, first of all, not letting people know I was starving, but secondly, building relationships. But when it started out, I would be like, hey, nice to meet you. I'm Jeremy, and I'm here to make sure your loved ones are taken care of when you die. And people are like, what? And they glaze over, or, in this case, this is the slide that I have, and this is a guy who decides to propose a little too soon. Girlfriend gets upset, and she's like, no, boom, game over. Okay, so that's my little analogy for when you start pitching too soon. Okay, you're not going to propose to somebody until you're pretty sure they're going to say yes, in theory. So when it comes to pitching your product, get to the point where you can feel that there's some energy and alignment, right? When you feel that the solution that you're providing solves a problem for them. If you pitch too soon, it's like throwing spaghetti at the wall, or like getting down on one knee, cracking open the ring box, and then in this case, getting a guitar across the head. So don't put yourself in that situation. I don't want you to be afraid to make offers, but as you start maturing in how well you can identify your ideal client, you can get a feel for it. Like, I'll give you an example. The first phone call I had with Benet, I didn't pitch because we weren't there yet. In fact, at the end of the call, I said, you know what? I don't feel like we accomplished everything we needed to on this call. Let's book another one. Right?
Yeah,
and
I'm a person to sell to.
well, because I needed that. I needed all the dominoes needed to be aligned for me to say, yes, this will solve the problem, and knock them all down. Right? And so it's okay to book that follow-up. And so what we're doing in this is, whether or not you're meeting this person at a networking event where you really have 3 to 5 minutes to get to know somebody, which isn't enough time in a crowded room when there's speakers happening and when there's food being served, it's hard to really say, I think I can go and change your life or change your business. It can be tough. But if you can get them privately in a call and you build enough rapport up initially to say, yes, let's jump on a call, then it gives you a much safer framework, and it allows you to not have to go pitching a 60-minute strategy session or jumping into a coffee for 2 hours in the middle of their workday. Because a lot of people, if they have 2 hours in the middle of the workday to work with you, or to have coffee with you, they might have more concerns than how you can help them, right? They might have way too much time on their hands, maybe, right? So I want to use that as a filter. How do we make sure that we're maximizing somebody else's time and protecting ours, but setting up the structure so that those dominoes all align, so that when we're ready to eventually pitch, which is the end of the strategy session, which we'll talk about next week, things just kind of go the way they should. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I think that the most important thing is it's really about the no pressure close. We don't want to be pitching something to somebody that's not ready, because it's just not going to work well. People are going to get upset. It's like I'll go back to sharing my screen here. Has anybody actually seen a proposal go wrong, like in real life? It ends up looking a whole lot like this. Okay, everybody gets upset. There's a big wedge that gets driven into the relationship because it's a really awkward moment, especially if it's done in public. And so if you make that same kind of, I'm going to call it a premature pitch, and you haven't truly established the relationship, this is also how the sales conversation can end, and the relationship. So we want to make that easy transition so that it's no pressure. It's just, hey, let's get to know each other better. Let's learn a little bit more. One of the key things I'll mention before I go into the slide, though, is I think it was I know somebody mentioned how to close, and I want to. One thing I'll mention for networking events, which is kind of a sidetrack, but if you spend an entire 3 or 5 minute window with somebody and all you do is ask about them, they will think you are the most interesting person in the room. Okay, think about that for a second. They don't know a thing about you, but because you listened and you seemed interested, and you should be interested, they will think you were the most interesting person in the room, and it will completely change the relationship. So keep that in mind. So this is the script that I put in the training. And this is just a sample. I mean, you can modify it, and I want to be clear as well, guys. If you have something that works for you, use it. Okay, don't borrow my structure if you've already have something that works. But if you think you can get better, you can take little pieces of the things that I share over the next few weeks, implement it. I've been doing this in different forms for over 20 years. I've been coaching in my business for the last 4, and I've learned some hard lessons. So I would love to save you those lessons, and you can just use what I've come up with. But again, it's got to be able to fit. So everybody's going to be a little bit different. And so here's the framework. If you've met with somebody and you've spent 3 or 5 minutes talking to them, and you're like, oh, you know what? Maybe I could help them. This is the script that I've kind of designed. So it was great to connect with you, Dave. I'm really intrigued by, give a very specific example. Okay, don't just feel like this is completely scripted, right? Really intrigued by the way you talked about how you're looking to grow your business over the next 12 months. I'd love to explore it a little further. Let's continue this conversation with a quick 15-minute phone call. How about next Tuesday at 2? Okay, really smooth. It's personalized, and it should be sincere, right? And just get them on that call, because what's going to happen is that call becomes a transition where you can dig deeper. And it's going to help you tee up that strategy session. So if you try to tee up a strategy session from somebody you've only known for 3 minutes, it's a steep hill to climb. And it feels really awkward when you're pitching, because then they're going to assume that it's free. And I'm going to tell you in the next week how you can make your strategy session not free. There's a smile. There we go. And 2, it's hard if somebody just meets you and then you start pitching something. Like, they know that there's going to be a sales pitch somewhere, right? Like it doesn't feel sincere. It feels very fake. And so if we can put in these pieces, not to create a fake structure, but to give you the opportunity to truly be more interested, truly connect on a deeper level, and truly get to know these people, then when you do get to a strategy session or any kind of sales conversation, you can offer solutions from a sincere place. Does that make sense? Do we have any questions about this part? No? Anyone else? I don't see any hands.
I'm just going to interject. So I like to draw little pictures and diagrams while I'm going. So the scenario that we've just painted is we're at a networking event, And we've had a conversation with someone. We've asked them lots of questions about themselves so that they think we're the most interesting person in the room. And we were actually generally interested and engaged in learning about that person. And then I guess at the end of the networking event, do we follow up with an email? It was great to connect with you. I'd love to, this slide that's there.
Yeah, and I like to do this at the end of the conversation. So when you go to a networking event, if you can set yourself personal goals, it's a really good idea. Like if you want to say, I want to have a really good, deep, meaningful conversation with 5 people, that's good. Or I want to have a really brief, shallow conversation with 30 people. You can do either. There's no right or wrong, although the deeper conversations will get you further. And then so when you're done and you've had that 3 or 5 minutes to connect with somebody, then say, it was really great to connect with you, and go through this script. And then you've got a book. You say, great, look forward to chatting with you. And then you go on to the next person. And if you really nail it at a networking event, let's say you go in looking to have deep conversations with 5 people, you find 3 of them are actually people you can help. Then you book 3 coffee chats. Most coffee chats will have a pretty high conversion rate to turn into a strategy session. And so you've taken that one networking event and turned it into the chance to generate what could be tens of thousands of dollars. Right. What are the price points, I'm curious, of people's signature programs, average-wise? Do you have an idea? I guess each people can.
Yeah, can we maybe come off share and...
Oh, sure, yeah. Hang
go
on.
around?
Yeah, hold on.
And then I have okay, I know Terry's, I've asked her this on the Facebook group, so you've got your pricing ready.
Well, and I'm actually still kind of vacillating, but it's either going to be, depends on if it's a 6 or 8 week course. I'm still trying to decide, and price point, because I'm kind of going with what the market is kind of dictating. For the beta group, it's either going to be somewhere between $5.99 and $6.49.
Okay. And Sylvie?
My price is around $750.
$750. Emmerich?
For 8 weeks.
For 8 weeks, okay. And Jeremy, if you want to talk about pricing or shed any light on that from your perspective, that'd be awesome too. Emmerich?
I'd love to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have some more thing to do, but right now it's looking at $500 a month. So.
$500 a month. And Trey? Oh, go ahead.
No, I need to also figure out what that's going to look like for like a year-long program, but to this point, it's month per month.
Okay, cool. I have a feeling I know what Jeremy might say there. We'll see. Trey, how about you? What's your price point?
So mine is, it's a group, but it's $850 for 3 months.
$850 for 3 months. And Jay?
I'll be redesigning my program, so I think initially I was looking at the 600 mark.
Okay. Great. And Dwayne? Oh, let's see.
Oh, we got $997. All right.
$997. Great. Okay, cool. Okay, so over to you, Jeremy.
Okay, so the reason why I was asking that question is when I say examples like, hey, if you just connected or turned 3 people into coffee chats and they can make $10,000, I want to make sure that number makes sense. And in these scenarios, it might not, which is okay. But even if it can turn into $500 or $600, right, it can be really good. And when you're really, really clear on your signature program, which it sounds like a lot of you are now, it can be a whole lot easier to enroll people because you know exactly what problems it can solve. You know exactly what symptoms you can listen for when you're having a conversation to identify where that pain point is. So I think that's a huge advantage when you're really, really clear on what your program is. I can dig into pricing if you want.
Do we want that? Pricing, you want to hear Jeremy spiel on pricing? Yeah. I think that's a positive. Yeah.
All right, cool. Okay. Okay, well, I have lots of thoughts on pricing. And the way I typically do it is I start with, if I was working one-on-one with somebody, what is the longest amount of time I would need to work with them to give them the ideal or maximum potential impact or result. So for me in my business, the maximum impact that I've done with somebody was I worked with them for 6 months and took them from no business to $100,000 business. Okay. Super awesome result. They were really excited. And so now I use that as kind of my gauge. Okay, so 6 months, I know I can get them there if they implement. And then I say, how can I apply those same pieces in a group program that's scalable? And how can I bring it back? So I actually created, I don't know if I'm probably going too deeper, but I actually created a price calculator like 2 years ago that I can share with the group if you want. But it was basically how to calculate it if you were going to do a small group versus a big group. And I had a multiplier in there that would show you kind of where it should fall. My instinct, though, is for beta groups, your pricing all sounds really good, especially then once you get somebody through it, you've got testimonials that you can implement. Right? Put those in your sales pages and go even further. Testimonials are really, really powerful. But those ranges are good. I've seen beta programs. I mean, a lot of people go way too low. I'm always going to push you further for a higher price. And really quickly, I'll share the story. This is my pricing conversation, my story that I share. I went to an event about how to run a coaching business, and it was the logistics, the building landing pages, email lists, that kind of stuff. And I had just left my job. I had $2,000 in my bank account, and this was a 3-day seminar that happened to cost $2,000. And I went, I really want to run a coaching business. Okay, let's just do it. I paid the $2,000. I borrowed gas money, jumped in the car, drove 5 hours to the event, slept in my buddy's spare bedroom. And on day 2, I got there and the coach said, you're all going to jump up in front of this room and you're going to do a speaking presentation. And I went, what? And there was 12 people in the room. I'd never been in front of anybody from a speaking perspective other than my own sales teams in the past. And I was terrified, but I invested my last $2,000 and I had to get my return. So then I stayed up till 4 a.m. writing my speech. There had to be an experiential experience included and a fake pitch to a product that didn't exist. So I did all that. And I came away and then I ended up launching my coaching business. Well, on the last day, I found out some people paid only $200 to be in that group. And your first instinct might be, ooh, you got scammed. But I'm the only person in the group that's still running a coaching business. And it's because I had to get the return on my investment. So from that and the other things that I've seen with my clients, I truly believe that the level of investment when it comes to something that includes some type of engagement, like some kind of transformation, the level of investment directly correlates with the level of commitment for your client to achieve the results. Because if I can get you to invest $100,000 in a program, I promise you're going to work a whole lot harder than if I got you to invest $10,000. Right? So think about that when you're thinking about your pricing. You do want to consider the market, right? That's let's not price ourselves out of the market if you want to get a high volume. However, one $30,000 client a year is worth 3 $10,000 clients per year. So it's kind of a balance of how you want to work, right? There's no right or wrong.
Can you say that again? One client of blah is equal to blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. One $30,000 client per year is equal to 3 $10,000 clients per year. So if you are more comfortable charging $10,000 and are willing to do 3 times the work, or you're comfortable pushing yourself to $30,000 and just put all your energy into helping one person and have their life changed, it's up to you.
Yeah, I want to add to that too. And this can, I don't know how it works with what you've just said. I love what you just said. One of the ways that I always look at my coaching business is I go back, I'm really self-centered in a way. And I go, what do I really love to do? And what am I the best at? And like for me, I love working with groups, like working with one client for me at $30,000, even though I might get $30,000, I just would get a little bit bored because I love the dynamics of groups so much. So I think that can really complement what Jeremy is saying. Like you need to look at that, but you also need to look at what brings you really personal satisfaction and joy in doing your job. And I think as long as we're enjoying the work we're doing, we'll always have that drive to fill the group, and to wake up every morning and do the work that we do. So I just want to throw that little.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting because the higher price point, you're actually going to attract a different kind of client. So so the first time, I went for a month and I was just like frustrated. I didn't seem to be closing anything. And my coach at the time said, well, are these people qualified? Which is kind of why we're going to talk about strategy sessions and things next week. And then I said, well, I guess not. And he said, why don't you just go and ask for what you really want and what you really think these people need to be investing? And at the time, I was charging about $1,500 a month for a 3-month commitment. That was my structure. And he said, just do what you think needs to be done. And I said, okay, I'm going to make $30,000 for a year. And he's like, good, go do it. And I went, okay. And then out of nowhere, this lead came in. Someone heard me on a podcast, tried to connect with me on my website, booked a strategy session, paid. And I got on the call with them and I'm like, it's kind of like a bonus lead. So what do I have to lose? I've already made the $147. And so I jumped on the call and it turned into a 2-hour strategy session. But at the end I said, and the investment to work with me for an entire year is $30,000. And if you pay up front, I'll give you a $5,000 discount. And I sat there and I stared in awkward silence, which felt like about 18 minutes, but was more like 3.5. And finally he came back and said, if I pay for 4 months up front, can I still get a discount? And I went, yeah, okay. And this was the guy that in 6 months hit 6 figures. And that day we had that strategy session, he had no business. He was an accountant. And it's a different quality. Before that, I had enrolled people at $1,500 a month for 3 months at a time. People that weren't willing to push themselves outside their comfort zone. They wouldn't jump on Facebook Live to do videos. And I know you guys are, rocking that. But they just wouldn't budge because that investment wasn't enough to say, oh no, I need to get the return on my investment. This guy actually went and sold his house, quit his job. His goal was to quit his job, sell his house, and make his first $10,000 sale by month 3 working with me. He did all of those in week 3. Yeah. So he closed the $10,000 sale and he went, okay, I guess I can quit my job. Let's go do this. And then a few months later, he was up on stage saying, I sold my house to work with this guy. So it was a really great story. And he's still, now I've partnered with him actually for some other things in business. So that's the kind of things that you can create when you're willing to position yourself at a more premium price point, right? If you find yourself going, oh, I should drop my price so I get more sales, don't do it. Don't do it. Stay in your posture, stay in your power, and know your worth. Okay, don't dilute the value that you're delivering because you think you need a sale. Know the value you deliver when you have the right person in front of you. And I'll step off my soapbox now.
Okay, there've got to be questions, emotions that are bubbling to the surface. Terry, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the battle for me with that, because my original price point was at the 12-week program beta for like $12.97. But my battle is because it's beta, because I'm known for not for the coaching program. Now I'm known for being a huge resource, but I don't have the name in terms of coaching. That's why I'm, looking at dropping it to a 6-week, maybe an 8-week program for that price. And I'm not happy about it. Trust me, I am not happy about it, but I thought it was better to get the testimonials. Mm-hmm. And it's probably not all of my ideal clients, but so. Right.
So, I mean, there's no true right or wrong answer, but I will absolutely give you my very strong opinion. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you, you said that you're known as a resource, but not known for the coaching.
Correct. And because here's the other thing, the kind of the other caveat to it as well is I have such a huge warm and natural market. That's actually where I saw my beta group coming from. I really didn't even plan on doing like the Facebook ads and stuff. And that's why I hadn't really engaged a whole lot on that, because that's where I'd had more than enough where I thought my beta would come from, 10 to 12 people.
Mm-hmm. And so when you say a warm market or warm audience, is that like friends on your personal page or people following a business page?
Kind of both, mostly people in my local community. I'm just very ingrained in local community and kind of Texas community. Okay,
good. So being ingrained in that community, and you do a lot of in-person networking, it sounds like as well. Mm-hmm. So the coffee chats, as what you're doing, it seems to work as far as getting connection, but if you can tighten it up, that can be a really good enrollment process. But if we go back to the pricing, the key is really how warm are they, right? Because when somebody looks at the price, the only reason why people say no based on price is because the perceived value isn't there. Right? And that's just a communication or an education issue. So if you can leverage Facebook Live, I'll give you an example. I'm part of a local networking group. I'm here in Ottawa. And I managed to get all the members of my group to follow this Facebook page where I was doing weekly Facebook Lives. And they were the ones that were engaging. There was nobody else watching them, but this group was watching them. They started liking and commenting and sharing. And instantly I became like next level expert for them. And I became like a Facebook Live expert in their opinion. And now if I had a Facebook Live program, I mean, that's not my magic, but from what they've seen, it's a sweet spot for me. And so if I had a program, I could be like, here it is, guys, do it. And they would jump all over it. So if you can show your authority in the space for the fixing the program, or the problem that your program solves, and give them ways to warm up to it. So I know part of the training here is Facebook Live. Okay, you do. Okay, good.
I do that.
Have you pitched at the original price point you talked about? Have you presented to people?
Yes, I did. Okay. And I got everything from Terry, I know you, that's too low. You offer, you need to double that price, to I've never used coaching before. So I'm thinking, Terry, I'd pay $500.
Okay. So I would go to the people that say you're charging too little and say, great, invest in me now. Like, just call them on it, right? Be like, think it's worth more? Awesome. And you're absolutely right. And because this is my first round and I would love your feedback in helping to shape it.
Got it.
Jump in. We'll give you this discounted price of $1,200 and et cetera, right?
Okay.
And you can be the group that shapes the face of how my programs look for the next 12 months or beyond.
Okay.
So make them feel like they're super important. They're getting a super special deal. This applies to everybody, not just Terry, but those beta people, they're the community that is going to shape the program, right? They're going to give you feedback. You're going to make changes as you go. So make them feel like they're like VIP. I just did a training for an accelerator program in Atlantic Canada, and it was all about how to find your first clients. And the emphasis on treating your beta people like gold was the theme of the entire training. Give them something really special, make it easy to commit. Now, not too low financially to commit, because you still want them to get results, right? If you say, jump into this program, it's $250, we're going to, oh, cool, that's no problem for me. But then they're not going to show up to the calls. They're not going to submit their work, right? And then they're not going to get the result. And then they're going to go, oh, well, I did this beta training with Terry and I didn't get results, right? But if you push them, make them show up, or even get them to sign some kind of form that commits them to showing up, something, you need to make sure they're engaged. And the price just happens to be a really good way to do it. So you might go through a lot more people that say, I'm not ready, I'm not there yet. And feel free to dig a little deeper when they say, I don't think I'd pay that much. And say, why? Just a completely open-ended why. And not in like a, condescending or disapproving, but just like, okay, tell me more about that, right? And you might be surprised what you find. A lot of it might just be, I just don't have the cash flow right now.
That's a lot of it.
Right, yeah. And so this won't work for everybody, but one of the stories, and another story that I kind of tell, and it's not a real story, it's totally fake, but if you've ever thought of, Benay laughing, yeah. But if you've ever, if I came up to you and said, I've got this brand new BMW, and if I was to buy this off the lot right now, it would be $85,000. And I'll say US, because there's some non-US people here, right? Us Canadians and Aussies. But there is this problem that happened at the factory where there's this huge scrape down the middle of the exhaust pipe. Now, you'll never see it. The only one that'll ever see it is the mechanic, but because it's not in perfect condition, I can't sell it for $85,000. In fact, I need to get rid of it by the end of the day for $5,000. Anybody on this call not be willing to find $5,000 by the end of the day for an $85,000 Beamer? Right? Even if you don't like Beamers, you're going to go find $5,000. So think about that when it comes to pricing your programs. Your program is a Beamer. And you just need to make the value of the program seem so significant that it's like paying $5,000 for an $85,000 vehicle. Because that course is the vehicle to get them to where they want to go. Okay. So just don't doubt yourself. Don't let a pile of people who might not have cash flow where they need it to be at right now determine your prices. Those just aren't your ideal clients quite yet. And that's why, eventually in your business, you'll create things that are lower price point to help them get there if you want, right? The automated things, the digital things, the stuff that, are kind of the downsells. But for your signature program, which is the core of the foundation of what you're going to teach. And so when people go to higher levels, that foundation is going to be really important that they understand, right? Makes your life easier if you're going to go into one-on-one and things like that with them. You want to make sure you get the right people going through that. And you want to make sure that they're engaged at the level that's going to get them results. Otherwise, it's going to be a whole lot more, a whole lot bigger problem than your pocketbook not being, as thick as you'd like it to be. It's going to be people going, oh, she has a program that I don't get results from. Right? So don't go too cheap and not let people be engaged. And there's the dropping the mic.
Can you talk a little bit about payment plans? Because sometimes that makes a huge difference.
It does. Yes. And I have a whole lot of different opinions on that too, but here's what I've learned. So I've had, like I said, I've enrolled people at $30,000 a year. And that one person was the one that paid 4 months up front. Okay, that was probably the biggest single payment for a one-on-one coaching that I've received. So no one's ever paid me for a year in advance. What I have learned is that if somebody is not engaged and you have them on a monthly payment plan, they're much more likely to stop paying if you don't have them fully engaged. So if it's a program that is scalable, limit your payments as much as you can, like maybe a 2-pay or a 3-pay. And as you get more experience, you'll see, okay, I've got this program, it goes for 12 weeks. And I see people are starting to drift off in week 6. You want to go back and say, what can I do to increase the engagement? But you want to be really careful not to do, like with one of my clients, they run a program where they'll actually help you create the program and actually sell it. We do a done for you sales team, which is super neat. But one of the challenges is we have a client coming on to work with them that has a 36-pay option for the program. And we're going, that's insane. Because first of all, the likelihood you're not going to get all your money is very, very high. And so we're trying to shift it all to a 1, 2, or 3-pay. Because if you can get that commitment up front and you can get them engaged up front, then at that point, they're saying exactly what I said at that training event. I need to get the return on my investment. How do I get engaged? Right now, other people will say, make it as long as the program is. There's lots of people that have a $19.97 program and they charge $200 a month or $197 a month for 12 months, right? That happens, but most of them, I've worked with a lot of them, most of them don't end up getting a good chunk of their payments. And if you're someone, and I don't think anybody on this call is this type of person, but if you're someone that just wants to enroll and say, some will, some won't, so what, as far as getting to the end, that's fine. But I'm not that kind of guy. I know Bené's not that kind of person, and I'm sure none of you are. You want to focus on how do I get maximum engagement, how do I get the maximum results, and how do I get maximum testimonials? So the earlier the investment, the better. And any time that I've said, well, let's make an exception. We can start with, if you give me $50 now to secure your spot and then give me another 150 in 2 weeks. I've never once had that work out for me in 4 years, ever. Okay? Ever. I wish I could tell you I had, but never. I've had people negotiate, well, I'm part of this group with you. We don't want to get a special discount. As soon as I went, she bailed. I could tell in the conversation. She went from totally interested in paying me $30,000 a year. And then for some reason, as soon as I considered a discount, she checked out. I don't know why. But in her head, I'm guessing she suddenly devalued it because, he's willing to discount it. And it became less about getting a deal and more about, if he was that quick to discount it, what's the real value here?
No, I agree with Jeremy with that. Every time I sort of make exceptions or hold a spot because somebody just can't quite pay yet or whatever, like those always end up being my problem people. So as much as your heart bleeds for them and you want to help, it's like, you're not, you got to have the clients and the students who are actually going to bring value to the group you're putting together and to actually get the best results. So there's,
The one exception that I'll say that has worked for me is if there's a certain minimum payment to start. And I'll say, look, if you make the initial portion to show your commitment now, I'm going to tell you it's non-refundable because I want the same level of commitment as if you were making the entire payment right now. And then as long as you get the balance for the first payment paid by the start date or whatever date makes sense, then I'm okay. That has worked, because once they're in and they're engaged, they just have to get themselves in a mindset to make the extra $200, $300, $3,000, whatever the number is, right, to get there. But once they're focused and they're clear on the goal, I've seen that work quite well. But any of this like starting for like half price and let me pay you when I get my clients or any of that stuff, never.
Okay, we need to get moving along to talk about coffee chats.
Oh yeah, right.
I think that pricing tangent was really useful. Did anybody else have any specific pricing questions that you'd like to get some feedback on before we move on back to coffee chats? Just looking at everybody. Okay, and then Jeremy is already proving to be pretty active in the Facebook group. So if anything bubbles up, in the next month, go ahead and post that for Jeremy, and we can have a discussion on Facebook. Okay, so Jeremy, let's get back to coffee chats. So sure. I just want to kind of recap. So we're at a networking event. At the networking event, we booked them into a 15-minute conversation. Is that 15-minute conversation the coffee chat, or is that something in between?
So the 15-minute conversation is the coffee chat.
It's the coffee chat. I just wanted to double make sure. That's what I had, but okay. Great. So,
awesome. So perfect. So I'm going to jump back into the slides real quick because this is the framework that works really well. So for the coffee chat, one thing you want to do is you want to be calling the prospect when you do this chat. You pick up the phone, you dial their number, say, hey, Dave, it's Jeremy. I'm super glad that we were able to connect the networking event. It's now still a good time. Okay, super low pressure, super friendly. You're reminding him how he met you, why the heck you're calling. But some people will say, oh, it's a posture thing. You want them to call you, so you're an authority. That's not the point of the coffee chat. The coffee chat will give you authority for the next step. Just make the contact. That's the most important. So the reason why also is because it means that you need to make sure you've got their phone number and their email so you can follow up. Okay, so one of my rules of sales is he or she who controls the contact information controls the relationship. So keep that in mind. So frame the call. So remind them that the goal is to learn more about the challenge that they shared, and you want to see how you can serve them. That's all it is. So you're saying, hey, I want to see if I can help you out a little bit. No pressure. You're not there to pitch, because at the end of that 15 minutes, if it doesn't make sense, if you can't help them, you're going to say, you know what? I think I know a guy that might help you. Or, hey, this lady specializes in this area. I can introduce you. Like, this is really, truly designed to see how you can help, even if it's not you. But if it is you, we're creating a really great segue for you. And then dive right in. So don't spend more than 60 seconds on getting the conversation back on topic, right? So you want to get them right back to almost exactly where you left that conversation off at a networking event. So here's a tip. Make notes on my business cards here. Wait, that's not a blank one. Hold on. This is my business card, but on the back, I'm just throwing them around here. On the back, it's basically white. It's taken the gloss down. It does have my logo on it, but it's got notes. So I can say, hey, spoke to Dave at the networking event. And it's actually, here's one. What did I write on this one?
I don't know. Can everybody see Jeremy's screen? I can't actually.
Let me get rid of the screen. All right, let's do this. Hold on a second here. All right. So here's the card. Okay, just my normal business card, nothing fancy about it, although it looks really good if I do say so myself. But then on the back is just the white. It's got the gloss removed so I can write on it. It's got a little section that says notes. And this one I did actually write on. It says Facebook ads, and it's got a guy's email. I met this guy on a ferry going to a party. And I was like, oh yeah, you don't have a card? No problem. Pull up my card, flip it over on the back, write his contact information down so I can get back in touch with him. So if you can do that, or make notes about your conversation so when you follow up, you know exactly where you're picking up from, it makes life a lot easier. So that's one of my, pro tips, I guess. But dive right back in on topic. I want to go back to sharing. So that you can stay on point, because at this point you're a minute in, you've got 14 minutes within your 15-minute coffee chat, and you want to use it very effectively. sometimes you need to be very strict. As you can tell, I talk a lot. I try to listen more when I'm actually in strategy sessions, but I need to be very, very strict when it comes to keeping these 15-minute calls to 15 minutes. And so here's kind of a demo script. Hey, Dave, it's Jeremy. Thanks for jumping on the call with me. At the chamber after hours, you mentioned you were struggling with closing your sales. So I wanted to take 15 minutes and see how I can support you. Can you tell me a little bit more about your challenge there? Okay, you're going to, so you're bringing back, hey, where do we meet? Check. What were we talking about? Check. Oh, I can help him. Awesome. Check. Tell me more. So it's open-ended. You're going to let him kind of go freestyle around his challenge for the next 8 minutes or so. Just so you can learn, you can ask some questions. Tell me more about that. Why is that important to you? So you get as deep as you can without getting into a full 60-minute conversation. Now, at the end, if you do happen, and I've got all this stuff scripted in a Google Doc as well, guys. So I can post that in the group as well, so you're not trying to see on the screen. Yeah.
I've linked it. I've
Okay.
I've turned it into a Word doc and linked it to the lesson, so it's in that.
Oh, okay, perfect, excellent. So forget where I was at. But yeah, when you dig in deeper and let them open up, then you're going to allow yourself to build that connection, right? And back to the idea of if you spend the whole time asking questions, they're going to feel like you're the most interesting person in the room. Well, in a coffee chat or a strategy session, they feel like you're someone that they can trust.
Jeremy, just a question in from Sylvie. When you're doing these coffee chats, these are on, actually you're calling them on the phone, or you're calling them on Zoom?
I do both. The most effective design is actually on the phone. Okay, you want to, I love using Zoom for strategy sessions, especially if you're going to go 45, 60 minutes. Because you can read more of somebody, you can tell if what they're saying aligns with their body language. With 15 minutes, this is just about earning trust. Because the offer at the end of this, which we'll see in a few minutes, is $147. It's not a huge offer, which is going to be your paid strategy session. So, but you can do it on Zoom. If you think you can get them on Zoom and there's not going to be any tech issues, then you can totally do it. However, far too often I've seen if somebody jumps on a call on Zoom or tries to, they didn't figure out the link, they don't understand what that invite means. There's a lot of challenges that could be avoided if you just pick up the phone. And so with this client of mine where I run their sales team, we do the first calls with the technology called Better Voice. It's a voice over IP phone software. So the first call is always done over the phone with that. The second call, usually done on Zoom because we're going to dig deeper. So this is sort of kind of modeled the same way. So by the 10 to 12 minute mark, you should have been able to have your prospect clearly share their challenge, and then you let them know how you can help. And so here's a script. So Dave, sounds like not being able to close these sales is having a significant impact on your business. Would you agree? Yes. Now here's where we're going to do some old school sales stuff, because it's a low end offer that you're about to make. You're going to get them saying yes. Now in strategy sessions, we don't focus on this as much, but here, really important because you need to be very structured in a 15-minute call. How much do you feel this is costing you on a monthly basis? And Dave's going to say $3,000 a month. Oh, okay. Wow. So like $3,600 a year, or $36,000 a year. Sorry. I'm not so good at math. He's going to go, yeah. And suddenly the problem just got bigger. $36,000 problem. Whew. Great. So I want to respect your time. Our 15 minutes is almost up. If I could give you a customized roadmap that would guide you through overcoming not being able to close these sales and start moving you towards getting that $36,000 per year back into your business, would that be worth a $150 investment? Right. And it's kind of a no-brainer when you can monetize it. If you can't always monetize it, it's a little bit more challenging. But in most cases, there's a way that you can get it to some type of monetary value. If you help somebody improve in their career, you can talk about promotion. If you help somebody avoid divorce, we can stick a monetary value on that, right? So most things that you do, even if it's not a business driven thing or a financially driven thing, there's some type of value. Like what kind of dollar value would you put on having fulfillment back in your life? Well, if I'm happier and I love what I'm doing, then maybe I will do better at work and then I will get the promotion. You can bring it back.
Yeah.
So,
hey, Jeremy, could we maybe workshop that with a couple of people on the call who are open to exploring that?
Yeah, sure.
I think that would be really valuable.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Who'd like to have a go at monetize? Okay, Trey. So I'll hand over to you. Work your magic.
All right, Trey, what do we got? So tell me about the problem that you solve for somebody and how they typically see that from a value perspective.
Maybe I didn't understand the question. I would like to hear about that. And I want to make sure I'm about to go into a dead zone where my audio might be kind of sucky. So
okay.
I might not be in the hot seat.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else interested? We might be able to do Trey. I was thinking of Emmerich, actually. He came to mind for me, and also Terry. Emmerich, do you have any interest in this? Coming up with the monetary? I might just throw Emmerich out there. We might be able to do Trey as well. Emmerich's the one.
So I can pull over and park. So if I have a good signal, then
sure.
I can continue on. I just don't want to get in a position where you can't hear me.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is really important, especially for you, because you're all about closing the sale, and this part is really important. So that's why I thought it was great that you put your hand up. Atia, how about you guys? Do you want to have a go?
What are we doing again?
So Jeremy just read out that, so at the end of your coffee chat, you're trying to get them to book a strategy session or basically another conversation. And I say pay or not paid. Like Jeremy likes the paid model. I am a bit of a wuss, so I don't do that. But anyway, after that 15-minute coffee chat, getting them into a bigger conversation to have a bigger conversation about possibly joining your signature program. And he said he basically is trying to help, saying that we need to be able to articulate the value of the problem that the prospect is having. So for you guys, if they're having a crappy relationship and they're fighting all the time, like what's the monetary cost that's having on them, so that they start to associate their problem with money, actual dollars. And so I just wondered if you and Dwayne would like Jeremy to explore that with you to understand how you can sort of get a dollar value, and so you can have that conversation at the end of your coffee chat. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I would definitely like for Jeremy to explore that with us. Now the question that I have: are we supposed to be being Jeremy? Is this like role play? Like I'm just lost.
Well,
I'm supposed to be being Jeremy at this time, or I'm just lost about that.
Well, if you want to give me an idea, so help me understand exactly what problem you solve for somebody, and then I'm going to help you take it and associate it with a monetary value.
Awesome. Okay. So what me and Dwayne do is help couples who are in a relationship, kind of like a troubled relationship, kind of help them to understand each other better, to move through their relationship and have a happier and healthier and more fulfilled relationship.
Okay. And what right now, have you been able to kind of associate a dollar value with it?
So, honest answer is no.
Okay.
We've come up with a price point, but to actually say that we know why we came up with that price point, I will be lying if I say yes.
I love the honesty. Good.
Yeah.
I like that. Excellent. So what's the price point you come up with?
We came up with $9.97.
Okay. Awesome. So here's the interesting part: is that if you're probably going to need to help educate your audience on the fact that they need. Some people will sit there and go, "Well, it's not that bad." Right. I'm going to be totally honest, and I know this is being recorded, so I probably shouldn't say this on here, but I just wrote a check for $6,200 because of a breakup. So your program could have saved me $5,000. And that wasn't even a marriage, right? That was just a relationship. And it was like, okay, so what costs, what expenses, like it was just things that it just made sense for me to say, okay, you know what, for her to go forward and for me to not be a jerk, like this is a dollar amount that I should give her to help her get back on her feet as we part ways. Right.
Okay.
But even if somebody's staying in a relationship that isn't working well, what stress does it cause on them? How does it impact them at work? So for example, do you have an idea of like what the average income would be in your area or with like your clients that you work with?
We haven't done that research yet. Don't kill us. I know that's something that we definitely
that's all
need
good.
to know.
But do you have an idea? Like, do you have like 30,000, 45,000, 60,000? What do you have an idea where that might fall?
So you just asking in our area or for the clients that we're looking to work with?
Ideally, it would be good to know about what the clients you're looking to work with. However, as a starting point in the area might be good as well. But ideally, if you have an idea of kind of an instinctual perspective on where the income is for your ideal clients, that would be great.
Yeah. So we're looking at people that's in the price point of like anywhere from the lowest would be about $100,000 a year.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And the only reason why I say that is because what we've learned is that folk who aren't making that, much money, if they're making a lower amount of money per year, they're not so in tune with how important a relationship is. Does that
good
make
observation.
sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Totally. Awesome. So you could go down a few different paths, and it depends on the person's situation. So if you're going to end up selling this program through a conversation, it gives you a lot of flexibility to dig with somebody. And so if you can ask these open-ended questions to get a feel for where they're at, you can take them down the path of, okay, things aren't going well. How much work have you missed? How many sick days have you taken? How's work going? Is there a potential promotion that's coming up? Or are your clients normally employed or self-employed?
Employed.
Employed.
Well,
Okay.
actually, both. Yeah, both really.
Okay.
But
so
most people self-employed. Like the majority would be self-employed. Employed.
Employed. Okay. Yeah, the self-employed, they're going to have a much bigger value on their time.
Right.
So for those that are self-employed, I know that's not the majority of them, but if they're not working, in a lot of cases, they're not making money, right? And even for those that are employed, they only have so many sick days. Or what's the value of having to give up vacation days because you were feeling kind of down and blue because your relationship wasn't well? Or what was the cost to the company and potentially your reputation in the company because you were up all night the night before fighting with your partner and you were given a really important decision to make at work and you didn't make the right one because you weren't all there.
Okay.
Right. So you can have those conversations, and some of them can be really uncomfortable. So I like that you're able to move them into a conversation to have it. Like for what you're doing, I wouldn't want to like default to a sales page. I would want to have a conversation with them because you want to be able to customize those problem points that you're solving for them.
Okay.
Right. Now, as you get testimonials and you can give case studies on a sales page and say, hey, this was, Sam and Jane, and this is where the relationship was. And then actual like text on the testimonial from one of them or both of them, ideally, saying this is where I was at. This is the problems I have had. So people can go, oh, that's me. And you can use testimonials and case studies to educate people. But until you're there, you need to get right into the heart and soul of where their problems are, where their challenges are. So yeah, it can go to money pretty quickly, especially if there's a lot of pressure on them at work.
Yeah. I just wonder, because you guys have been following Etienne Dwayne's journey, and did anybody get any other ideas of potential monetary or impact things that would resonate with their ideal clients? Is that like for me, I wrote impact on kids. Like that to me has no price. But if you said like, look at what this is doing to your babies, I'm like, okay, here's my money.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I would drive it with questions, right? So how is this impacting the kids? And let them just tell you, oh, they're, staying out late, or they're kind of locking themselves in the room, or and what are they still doing the activities? Like it's it's tougher to put the dollar value on it, but it's not tough to put the emotional impact, right? So, and you can say, and this is my favorite line when it comes to any kind of sales conversation and how it's impacting them, is I'll say, how does that feel?
Okay.
And it can be really uncomfortable to say sometimes, but it can also be even more uncomfortable, but also a relief for them to be able to tell you, because in most cases they won't help.
Yeah.
And this is the point where in a sales conversation, especially if what you're giving is going to make a huge difference to them in their life, you're going to hear them tear up, or you're going to see them tear up, right? Like there's going to be an impact there, and that's okay. Like it's okay to have somebody cry in a sales call, because it means you found what matters to them. And if you can help them focus on that and get the result around that they're looking for, then you're not just making a sale, right? You're helping change somebody's life.
And that's what we're all here for. So like, I think that's really great, because that brings us home to, you know, a journey we've been following with you guys the whole time. And if you get somebody on this 15-minute call and you say, look, tell me about this challenge, tell me more about this challenge you're having, and you probe and you say, how is that impacting your kids? How's that impacting you at work? What impact is that making on your sex life, you know, and your finances? And then you start to gather all that information. When it comes into funneling that person into making a decision to move on to the next stage with you, you have all of this ammunition, but in the best sense, because you know you are going to help them transform their life, to put back to them that they can be like, oh my gosh, she listened to me. These are all the problems I'm having. And this, you know, $1,000 investment that I'm about to make is going to help make all of those things go away. Wow, I'm in. Right? Like that's powerful stuff in 15 minutes. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, and it looks like Trey's parked. So can we do Trey really quick and move on? I want to wrap up in about 15 minutes, okay? So.
Okay. All right, Trey, tell me what problem you solve for people, and what you've and how you've associated a dollar value with that solution so far.
I thought he parked. You're driving again. Trey, is this not a good time?
Are you talking to me? I continued on because can you give me like a couple more minutes?
Sure.
Hold on 1 second.
Does anybody else want to jump in there while Trey's parking again? Terry, you want to have a go?
I'm happy to do it.
Oh.
If Terry is.
Yeah, Terry or Emmerich, who wants to?
I'm pretty clear on mine, because I can always tie it back to, since what I do is help people, business-minded people, break through to the next level in business and in life. And I can usually pretty easily tie it back to an upcoming promotion, a type of client they're wanting to move and start to acquire, or a level of business that they're trying to get to. So mine's pretty
awesome, straightforward. Okay, so Emmerich is actually really keen to play. So let's do it.
Okay.
Right.
Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, good. Canadian, yeah. All right, so the problem I solve is essentially what I do with my students is I help them to design and build their life so they can not only excel at school, but actually be more in charge of their life.
And these are teens, right?
Teens, okay.
These are teens, although some are a bit younger, but around 11 would be the
Okay. So what price point are you at right now?
It's pretty low, I know, but it's gonna be right now. It's $300 a month, and I want to bring that up to $500.
Okay. Here's the important question, most important question. Are the kids paying or are the parents paying?
The parents are paying.
Okay. So you're not selling the kids, you're selling the parents, right?
That's right.
Okay. So do you have kids?
I do not.
Okay. So I would, first of all, because I don't have kids, I've got a niece and a nephew. So I'm not going to speak from total experience, but I kind of get it. And so you're going to want to get the language.
You don't, Jeremy. No, you don't.
I don't. See, and that's what happens when we try to talk about things we don't know, right? We get called out on it. But if you can speak to your, and I'm sure you have, speak to your ideal audience, these parents of these teens, and get a feel for what language they use around talking about the importance to them around helping their kids have the best life possible. You're going to get some really amazing language for videos, for sales copy, all that jazz.
Hold on, just want to interject. Yep. Did you get some good information on your top 3 challenges question, Emmerich, from parents?
I did. A lot of them, they just want their kid to be more confident. There's a lot of, they don't know how to manage their emotions. So a lot of the chats are around that. So emotional management, just more confidence. And those are the 2 big ones. And then some of them also kind of get bullied. And so they want just social skills. And just...
Okay. So I'm going to take a little bit of a different angle with your situation, because I'm going to talk about questions that you might be able to dig a little deeper with the parents.
Yeah.
And I would say, how do you feel like that might show up for them in their future? Okay. I know a child who's had a rough childhood, and he's been in and out of jail at the age of 16. And I'm terrified for his future, quite honestly. But if he had some type of process that he could go through, some guidance outside of what he currently has, it could be a complete game changer. He's a super smart kid and just making all the wrong decisions because of the way he's been shaped, how his environment's been shaped. And if he had the right kind of guidance, I know he could not only function properly in society, but could be remarkably successful. And so you could tie it out, and you would want to ask questions to let the parents come to this point. You wouldn't want to just say, by the way, what I'm about to tell you, but help them get there and talk about, what do you think they want to, what do they want to be when they grow up? What does that career path look like? What do you see for them? How important is it to you that they realize a dream of becoming a, whatever it is? And it doesn't matter what it is, right? Whether it's a mechanic or a business owner or a CEO, or I guess a CEO and a business owner is the same, or a surgeon or whatever, right? Are they on that path? They want to do it. When they were 11 or 12, they talked about, I want to be a whatever, right? Do they really want to be it? And are they on track to be that? What can we do to help them get to that career path? Because that's going to be the point where they're likely going to feel more satisfaction in life, right? They're going to feel like they achieved a goal that they had set. But do they have all these resources? Because what happens if they fall short? What happens if that confidence isn't there? What happens to their decision-making if they don't feel like it's been nurtured, right? And parents are busy. I'm not sure exactly how you're positioning the program, but and so you want to tie that in. But with kids, like the kids that you see, the kids of the parents that you talk to, those kids are going to change the world if you give them a program that'll help them to do it. And I don't want to, go too grandiose, but like that's the real deal. Like we've got if you've heard of Caleb Maddox, he's 15 now, and he's a best-selling author of 1 or 2 books, and has been on stage with Gary Vaynerchuk and Grant Cardone, and this kid's amazing. And he runs a program, a membership for kids about how to be all you can be.
I just want to circle back to that, the idea of for Emmerich in his conversation of what challenges are your kids having now with the parents, and eliciting that, and then Emmerich, that idea that Jeremy said about asking about how is this going to show up for them in the future if it's not fixed. How did that concept resonate for you, Emmerich?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of the time, me and the parent, we focus more on how is it affecting the child at school currently, or not necessarily just at school, but and there's generally issues with that. And there's a lot to talk about there. So we don't go necessarily too far into the future.
Okay. Can you?
Because they're very concerned about what's going on currently.
Okay, yeah, Jeremy, I'd be curious to hear how would you advise Emmerich based on, the parents want to talk about now. Yeah. But I do see the value in actually investing in the next level to chunk up to see that bigger, oh my gosh, if we don't fix this, my kid might go to jail or become a drug addict or whatever, serious stuff we're dealing with. So.
Yeah. And I would just say, no, I understand you want to focus on now, and tell me a little bit more about why what's happening now concerns you. Dig a little deeper, why? Because they're not going, well, I want them to get good grades, because I mean, like in grade 6, good grades is not the end of the world, right? Like, but that means something to the parents. That means maybe it's an indicator for their perception of their success. Maybe they really want their children to get into university. And maybe that means something to them, right? It depends on what their parents are associating this challenge they're seeing immediately with from a long-term perspective. So I would just dig deeper and say, why is this such a big deal for you right now?
Amber, when you have these conversations, right now with parents, what tends to happen in your pre-sales kind of conversations at the moment? Like, are you solving all their problems and addressing them now, or how much are you giving? What's kind of how do you know when it's done?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and yeah, and that's something I don't have a clear answer to that. It's still like they're like on an ongoing program, and one thing that I'm doing really well is that I help them form new habits, and I have like an ongoing sort of structure that they keep using throughout the year.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean actually the program itself. I meant in that initial sales conversation that you're having with parents. How do you know when that little conversation is actually done? Like, are you having, like Terry mentioned that sometimes she has these really long chats. Are you having really long chats and fixing all their problems, or are they short, succinct things and they book in for something else? I just wanted to understand where you were.
Yeah, no, so we talk about the issue, and then I discuss how I provide a framework that helps the students, their kids, to actually be more conscious about how to manage their emotions, how to be more confident. Then I give an actual example of what I've done with previous students. And so that makes it really tangible for them. And they can see how once their kid actually, do the exercises, once they actually engage in the process, then they can really get tangible results.
Great. That's great. That's exactly what I was curious about. What do you reckon, Jeremy? Any sort of tips, or you think Emmerich's pretty much on the right track?
I would just dig down more into the why first, because it's kind of like a doctor looking at somebody with a limp after playing, I don't know, too much tennis or something. You can see a little bit of a symptom now, but you can also see that if it doesn't get taken care of or it's not addressed, it's going to be a big, big issue long term. And so that's what these kids are facing. So it might be, they're not staying focused in class right now, or it might be they're, out with a bad crowd or whatever. But these are just symptoms of something that are going to grow in the future. So if you really dig into the why for the parents, and like, why is it a big deal to you? Why does that bother you? And just leave it with open-ended questions. You're going to learn a lot more about what this particular activity means to me. It might be, or it means to them. So it might be, well, when I was a kid, my brother stayed out all night and then he ended up A, B, C, and D, and I don't want that for my son. Like you could get some really deep things if you can dig into the why a little bit more. I think the example that you give, it sounds like it's really good if it helps them really get a good vision of the process you go through and what the impact can be. But if you dig into the why first, I think you're going to get a stronger image of what that impact will be specifically for them and their child.
Yeah. Okay. So
I do need to do that some more. So I ask for questions, and I have a pretty clear sort of perspective on what's going on with their kids, but I don't go too deep into the why. So I know that's something I need to do more.
Okay, cool. And I think that future thing, I think that could be a game changer for you, Emmerich. Okay, I just want to do, I'm timekeeper. We've got about 5 minutes before we normally wrap up. I do want to get to Trey because he's actually at his desk and he's like focused. So I wanted to ask Jeremy, first of all, how much more do you want to talk about the Coffee Chat in general and the framework? Is there more content there that you would like to cover?
I've got like one more script and one little structure. Like I've got like 90 seconds worth of stuff. So we can, let's dive in and do Trey right now if we can.
Good. So we might go over about 10 minutes or so, if that's okay with everybody. If you've got to leave, you've got to leave. You'll have the recording. But I think, it's really important that we get to Trey, wrap up this stuff, and then end on our insights and acknowledgements because that's great. Okay, so over to you guys.
All right, Trey, tell me what problem you solve for people and how you've been able to associate a dollar value to it so far.
Oh my gosh, I was trying to do dollars while you're just talking right there. So one of the things I help do is I help grow agile coaches. And typically the individuals that are in the position where I help, they're either senior scrum masters, or maybe junior agile coaches. And so it's really trying to help them grow more in their career and help them provide value to their, either if they're a consultant to their clients, or if they're within a company, help provide value so that people actually see it.
Okay. So I'm going to hit you with some open-ended questions that will be very comparable to what I might suggest you hit them with. Why is that important to them?
Okay. So you want me to answer that why I think it's important, or is that?
Yeah. Why do you think it's important? Like, let's put you in their shoes. Let's sort of make this a non-official role play.
Okay. Because the industry bar is pretty low for anybody to call themselves an agile coach.
Okay.
I've seen people get a Scrum Master certification, 2-day course, be a Scrum Master for a team, and then all of a sudden now they're an agile coach and they've had like 3 days of experience. Not really. So there's a wide variety of what people think is agile coach. And so then if you get a really bad one, then it really makes the entire industry look bad.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a perception thing and providing value.
Okay. So that's why it's really important to the industry, right? Because soon
Yeah.
you're going to have a whole industry of people that say there's something that they're not, basically, right? Or trying to make promises that they might not be fully qualified to deliver on. Why is it important to the particular person, though?
How can I get better skills so I can be a more effective agile coach?
And what does being a more effective agile coach mean to them?
So are they able to help the teams that they are coaching increase their metrics? So if they're looking at velocity, or if they're looking at the product value they're delivering their customer, are they able to help those teams achieve their goals?
Okay. And what do you think the difference is between someone who can versus someone who can't? Like, how does that impact the next stage in their career or their business?
So someone who can't, they have a mindset of almost telling people, okay, here are the rules that you should play by as a team. Somebody that can, they really meet the teams halfway. They really help them overcome the barriers and help them communicate better. Where it's more helping a team rather than dictating, here's how you do XYZ process.
Okay. And so if somebody is a better communicator and connects better with the team, what's likely to be the result for them or for the team?
If they're a better communicator,
mm-hmm.
How's it better for the team? Well, the team's going to listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
Might increase trust as well.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually maybe you're able to help increase the visibility of the team to maybe other leaders as well.
Right. Yeah. And it sounds like this is a pretty common structure, that people that communicate better are going to be seen better as leaders, are going to get better results. Right. And so ultimately might have more eyes on this coach to be able to create more opportunities for themselves versus somebody that doesn't walk the talk and they just end up, they're in one position. They never move up, or if they're kind of working as a freelancer, then they're going to have a tougher time getting referrals for other gigs. But if you can inspire a team and you can motivate a team and you can communicate with a team, they end up being more effective. They end up being faster. They end up having better results, which just makes you look better and ultimately makes somebody more money. And the person that makes more money pays attention to the people that help them make more money.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately that agile coach will probably end up making more money. Or if that's not important to them, it could be, how important is it for you to be seen as a leader by your team, right? Everybody's motivated by different things.
Yeah.
I love acknowledgement. I love being seen as a leader, and, I like making money. But individually, those things will trigger me to work harder or be smarter about what I do. So if you can figure out exactly what triggers them, and it'll be a little different for each person, but ultimately you can drive it back to better results that they are responsible for. And so if you want to associate a dollar value with that, you can do that, or value of opportunity when they're acknowledged as a good leader. If they're, a salaried employee, what does that look like for next steps in their career? Is there a promotion that they can go to above that? And how much would that be worth per year?
Yeah.
Trey, what is the career path for an Agile coach? Like, is it contract work where they come in, or is there a promotion process within the organization, or do they go cross different companies and just go, is it project based?
So there's two types. One is, they're an employee of the company and they help the internal teams there. Then there's the contract approach where company needs help. External consultant comes in, they're an Agile coach, and they help that team become better so that eventually you don't need that Agile coach. So you're in and out.
Yeah. And then so in that person's case, they're what they might be interested in is that their consultancy that's hiring them out to these organizations keeps them on as a consultant because they're so shit hot at what they do.
So there's two different things. If you're an internal Agile coach, then it's how do I get more recognition? Maybe going up from a Scrum Master to an Agile coach, maybe to a manager leading a group of Agile coaches or something like that. But if you're an external consultant going in, well, maybe it's the referrals. The better referrals you have, the more revenue you can get from other clients.
What's the pay change from being an Agile coach to being somebody managing a team of Agile coaches? Do you have an idea what that would look like if you're internal?
So I know if you go from like an average, like a Scrum Master to an Agile coach, it's probably like a $25,000 increase. Going from an Agile coach to leading a team of Agile coaches, I don't know that, but I'm sure it's more.
Yeah, and I think if you can tell a story, if you can find a real case where somebody, it doesn't have to be anything that you were involved with, but if you can find a case study where somebody went from being an Agile coach to somebody running a team of Agile coaches, you can use that as an example as to how valuable it is. So you can say, Jimmy so-and-so that went through this process, when he made the jump, he went from whatever number to whatever number. Just make it a real story, but it doesn't have to be one of your clients, right? It's just a case study.
Right.
And then that's something that's going to make people go, I could make an extra $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year. Right?
I know my stuff better, which that's what teaches you.
Yeah. And even on the freelance side, similar idea. It's, you need to make killer results to get great testimonials to get your next client, right? Because when your job is to work yourself out of a job, referrals are your lifeblood.
Absolutely.
So that sounds like it's career longevity.
Yeah. So if we come
higher rates too. Sorry.
If we come back to Trey, it's like this coffee chat conversation is kind of like funneling them down into taking that next step with you. And the whole purpose of this coffee chat is for you to really wrap your mind around what their big challenge is and what their big worry is that's kind of keeping them up at night. So it's either that they're worried about their reputation, they're worried about not getting the next referral because their contract's about to end, they're worried about getting that promotion and doing that big salary jump. They're worried that they're not getting recognized enough by the bosses in the company, and they're not really seeing the value in what they do. So when you can grab onto those little things, then when you get to that end of that triangle, then you can spit it back out to them. I mean, I'm sure there's a nicer word for that. But reflect it back to them and say, okay, so I can see your challenge is this. And then if you can, with a promotion one, that's a really easy number. So anyway, I'll hand over to Jeremy. I just like how we're really understanding the big problem space. It sounds like every Agile coach is going to have a little bit of a different challenge, but that's from this suite of challenges based on, you know, somebody who is an agile coach.
And keeping in mind, the goal for this conversation is to say, is it worth $150 for me to give you a roadmap to overcome your challenge?
Yeah,
right. So
yeah, if it's monetary, yeah, $150 to see, okay, how can you eventually make 25,000 more?
Yeah. Right. So that's part of the reason why I like to have a price associated with the strategy session, because it gives you permission to dig into more value and strategies, which we'll talk about next week. But really it's, hey, can you show them that having a roadmap to solve this problem is worth $150? And almost, well, it's very rare that you can't. Right. And so the key is you just got to make sure you deliver on that, which we'll talk about next week. But does that help?
Yeah, I think so. So it helps a lot.
Yes. Okay. If you have another question, I can dig a little deeper. I know we're a couple minutes over, but I'd rather make sure you feel good about it.
No, I feel good. I think that there's a monetary value in the career progression. And then for those that don't really think about the monetary thing, maybe it's the visibility into how much is that worth for them. So I don't know, because looking at this, it's almost based on kind of the financial aspect. But if you're not motivated by money, would this still work?
It would. So maybe it's about, you know, if you talk about being confident in your career path, or you want to avoid or make your career as low on stress as possible. Well, $150 is what you're going to pay for a counseling session with a counselor, right? So if what they want to do is feel more confident, is it worth $150? Totally, because if you're not confident, then, you know, you're going to make mistakes or whatever, you know, makes sense. I know there's other people, different audiences here as well. The money happens to be the easiest, but it's not the only one, right? So if I told you, and if we go back to the previous example, if I said, is it worth $150 to give you a roadmap on how to make sure your kids are on the best path to success for their future, right? You don't need to make that a monetary value that, you know, a parent's going to say, totally, as long as you can deliver, right? And so to take a little pressure off this framework, the next step we're going to talk about is it truly is going to be like a risk-free as well. So you don't need to be able to say, I'm going to prove to you there's going to be $25,000 waiting for you at the end of our next strategy session. You just got to say, if I can give you that map, if I can deliver on what I'm saying, will it be worth it? And so even if it's confidence to grow your team, or confidence to have people see you as a leader. Like if I was to say, hey, if I can show you everything you need to know to be a great leader for the team you're running now, would that be worth $150? And just purely from an emotional perspective, for most people, it will be. So if you just dig a little deeper, I guess, to see what pieces are important to them, what the career path they want to have, I think that's going to help you connect in a stronger way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I can base this kind of the framework based on either a monetary thing, if that seems like where they're going, or to a more non-monetary.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we could change this out and say, oh, look, I have a typo. Hold on. Ooh, that's going to be in the recording. And put that confidence back into your business, right? Or the leadership skills back into your, and maybe it's career here, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it's interchangeable. The money's just the easiest, but all these things that if you can connect it with somebody, like there's a lot of things if you think about in your life that if you see it as a challenge, it can be fixed. You'd hand over $150 pretty quick for a lot of things, right? If you're just like I paid $4,200 for LASIK eye surgery, right? So that's something I would have easily paid $150 for. So different challenges for anything. You'll pay $150 to potentially change summer tires to winter tires, right? So there's these things that are not emotional that we make transactional decisions on all the time. When we can bring it back to an emotion, And you can even use those examples. Say, look, if you're willing to spend $100 on a tire, isn't it worth spending $150 to put you in a great place in your career? Mm-hmm. You know, those kind of comparisons.
That's great. And I think it's a really great carrot, for coming to the next lesson, watching the next lesson, and coming to the next group call, because we're going to learn how to do this roadmap session with our prospects that we've got paid to do, and actually deliver value that helps them move forward and builds that trust with us even more. So,
all right.
I'm excited. Was there anything else you wanted to cover in the framework, Jeremy? Or
this is the last thing. So this is basically the how to pull the trigger and ask the closing question. So assuming that you're comfortable getting to that point and you say, is it worth $150 to create a roadmap to solve this problem? Then most people are going to be able to say yes if you've positioned it properly. I'm going to say, great. So when I work with people in your situation, okay, this is very clear. When I work with people in your situation, that's very loaded because it sounds like you do this all the time. So even if you're brand new, you can use the script. When I work with people in your situation, we go through a full 60-minute strategy session. At the end of the session, you'll walk away with a clear action plan on how to get that money, confidence, leadership, whatever, back into your business pocket career. And the investment for the session is $147. And if at the end of the session, you don't feel you received the value, I'll refund your investment before we're off the call. So for those of you that are going, oh, am I going to charge them for a sales call? You're not, first of all. You're charging them for a valuable strategy session where they're going to walk away with something. Secondly, if they're not happy, this isn't about the money. This is about having somebody that's really willing to put money down in advance to invest in your expertise. And in 4 years of doing this structure, I have never once been asked for a refund. Someday that will change, I'm sure, but knock on wood, I've never been asked for a refund. So, and you can use this script again. It's in the document that's attached to the lesson as well. But it's just really powerful because it gives the risk free. If somebody says, well, I can't afford it. Well, it's like literally you have nothing to lose. I will give you the money back. And it's worded specifically so that if somebody doesn't show up to the call, you're not giving them their money back. So this eliminates the no-shows because they need to make it till the end of the session. Okay, so that's worded very purposefully there. So people are more likely to show up, which means you're not going to get a bunch of no-shows and fill your calendar with people that aren't committed. And then two, it truly is no risk for them. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's it. That's the magic. Yeah, that's it. This is the next steps. But take their money and book the session. That's it. But this is the power piece, I guess.
Yeah. I could see that working really well, especially for Trey's business. What about people who are a little bit afraid about doing a strategy session? They want to do that for free, like a discovery call. What advice would you give to people who are sitting the fence?
Try it. Just try it.
Try it.
I know that's what you want to. I know it's not what you want to hear, but honestly, I was terrified. And my coach at the time told me to do it. And even that one person that I mentioned that came out of nowhere from the podcast, and he actually tried to message me on my website, and he said, "You know what? I think we're a great fit to work together based on the 3 podcast interviews I heard. How do we work together?" And I said, "Hold on. First, the first step is we book a strategy session to see if we're the right fit." So this guy was like ready to throw money at me. And I said, hold on. I need to do my qualifier first, that strategy session. Will you invest $147 to get on the phone with me? Yeah. Check. Great. Do the strategy session. Will you invest $30,000 a year? Mm-hmm. Check.
And what about if it's a $400, $500, $600 product instead of a $30,000 product? Do you think that a $147 strategy session is still a good prerequisite?
It depends on the level of commitment somebody needs to be in the program. So and
can we come off share too, so we can?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, you can drop the price to $47 if you want. I know someone that runs a $25,000 program and their application fee is $500. And that's for a mastermind program. and he did a $3.4 million launch when I met him a couple of years ago. So there's something to be said for the qualification purpose. This is not to make money. The 147 is not because I want $150 in my pocket. It's because it allows somebody to put their credit card on the table. It's like when you sign up for a trial and somebody says, well, put in the credit card, we're going to charge you $1 today. It's just so you become a buyer. That's it. Right? So this is just a level of commitment. So you can change that number all you want. But the key is, what's the dollar amount somebody will invest, knowing that if they don't show up, they're not getting it back? What can secure them in making sure that they're not a no-show? And what's that dollar amount that's reasonable based on the commitment you're going to ask for? So yeah, if it's a $300 program, $150 might be a little high, right? $47 might be a good qualifier. You just want to make sure that when you're investing your time, you're doing so with the people that are qualified and are committed. And I mean, you can do it for free, and we'll talk a little bit about this next week, but as long as you have some kind of qualifier, a questionnaire or something, you want to make sure that the people are going to show up and do everything you can to make that happen. I just love the financial qualifier, because if they tell me they're not going to invest $150 in a risk-free session, then they're probably not going to invest in my higher end coaching.
Yeah, cool. Okay, well, I want everybody to sort of take that away and sleep on it, and process this concept for your business and really think about it. And then next meeting, come back and tell us how you're feeling about it, how you're sitting with it, how you might roll something like this out, or no, I'm really feeling a lot of resistance, I want to do free. Does everybody kind of take that on the back burner as their homework to just process and digest and report on next week? Jeremy, I was just wondering, Atia, are you still here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I'm just wondering, maybe Jeremy, can you hold on after we wrap up so that we can look? Atia's got a landing page she needs some feedback on. And sure. I do want to close the meeting. So let's go ahead and do that. Terry, do you want to kick us off with either a key insight for you for today or an acknowledgement?
Key insight for me is being able to charge for booking a strategy session, because I never really knew and felt comfortable how to do that, and I was giving away too much. So I can do that, and excited about hearing that session for next week.
You can do that now. I wonder how many you'll have booked by the next time we do. Okay, Atia, what was your key insight or acknowledgement for today?
Because I had so many, I'm just trying to think about what was the top one for me. So, my thing was trying to figure out the correct languaging around getting someone to sign on to your program for whatever dollar amount you're offering it at. And so for me, just hearing the scripts and things of that sort, and how different words can give a different feeling and a different vibe to make someone kind of empty out their wallet. So I think that was the biggest key insight for me. And like I told you before, we go to a lot of different trainings and things of that sort, and I always see the script, but I never really understood exactly why this word was put here or why this was worded this way. And so, listening to Jeremy and reading the script along with him is, it helped me put it into perspective. So I think that was my biggest key insight.
Awesome. Great feedback. Okay, Trey.
The biggest insight, the background that Jeremy uses for his video. No.
It's the wrong answer now.
So what I got is how to minimize the time that you're spending and qualify people that you actually want to talk to. And so by using a 15 minutes, you're not spending an hour just trying to convince them to become a client. You spend a really small amount of time, and to see if they're actually interested, charge a nominal fee. And so you're doing less talking with the people that aren't going to purchase your service. So I think that qualification thing was really valuable.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Trey. Emmerich.
Yeah, for me, it's a charge for a strategy session. That's something that's it's got me thinking. Up to now, I haven't done that. But for me, because there's a lot of face-to-face as well, it's a lot of my time. And if I don't get money for it, and I feel sometimes it's a waste of my time and energy. Also, talk more about the why, and the scripts are also quite helpful. I'll definitely try to use them. So,
excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emmerich. And for me, it's always like you just, similar to I think what Atia said, you just peel away the scripted and you bring the emotion into the sales process, Jeremy. So every time I hear you talk, that's what I really love, is how you're really calibrating the person you're talking to, and you're using that information to funnel them into something that's going to change their life. And the more I connect with that and use that and come from that heart space, even if I get the words a little bit wrong, if I'm coming from that right heart space, it makes a huge difference in my conversion. So thank you for just being a master at what you do. Now it's your turn, Jeremy. What would you like to, insights or acknowledgements or observations? What would you like
I want to acknowledge everybody on this call. This whole process that you guys have been through is a whole lot of pushing everybody outside their comfort zone. And, you know, it takes guts to do it, right? And the tagline for my company is get uncomfortable, get results. And so that's what I see all you guys getting uncomfortable. And those of you that are a little bit nervous, like Will Smith has a speech that he not a speech, but a presentation he did. I think he was being interviewed. And he said he was about to jump out of an airplane, and he realized every point up to the moment before he jumped was fear and resistance. And it was just a waste of his energy, because that moment, as soon as he jumped, he was free. And every moment prior to that was just all this negativity, but he couldn't do anything about it. Right. So we tell ourselves these stories about how it's going to go bad, how it's going to go wrong. And I once called somebody, 15, 16 times over a 2-week period. And when I finally got a hold of them, they said, thank you for your persistence. And then they signed up for a $30,000 online degree in that case. Think about the best possible scenario, right? We tend to default to the negatives, but just think there's somebody on the other end of that phone or the other end of that conversation that needs your help. And if you don't do everything in your power to at least give them the information to show them the opportunity, then you're doing them an injustice. So keep pushing yourselves outside your comfort zone. Kudos to you all that have done it so far. But let's keep doing it, because we're change makers, right? That's what we're here for.
Oh my gosh, I've got goosebumps. I'm practically going to cry. I think that's a wrap. Okay, everyone, thanks for hanging on to the call. Oh, we've got something in the chat. Let's see. Wow, that was amazing. Cool. Okay, so Atia, just hang on and we'll look at your landing page, and everybody else, you're free to go. If you want to look at Atia's landing page, feel free to stay. But we'll see you next week. Happy coaching.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Vinay.
My pleasure.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.